Our next speaker is amazing. I'm so excited because this was something that I know that Rincon and Effingham County really needs to hear, and that is Mr. Alfonso Ribot. He's the president of the Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and he's Latino, not just Savannah. I'm talking Effingham. I'm the representative. His topic today is on the power of Latino leadership through culture, inclusion, and contribution. He is the founder and the president of the Metropolitan Chamber, Hispanic Chamber. The Hispanic Chamber serves as a catalyst in creating and fostering lasting relationships between Hispanic and non-Hispanic business owners. In this capacity, as the president, he is responsible for the operation and organization of the Chamber, who is a volunteer-based organization. He's worked for the U.S. Census Bureau, Atlanta Regional Census Bureau as a partnership specialist in South Georgia region. He was assigned to develop partnerships that increased awareness of the importance of the 2020 census within the Southeast Georgia region and the United States, primarily focused on the Hispanic and hard to count population of this region. Mr. Ribot's goal and drive were to ensure that everyone living in it is counted once, only once, and at the right place. He's also a veteran. He served in our armed forces. He retired in July of 2005, and for over 24 years, he served our country. His military career allowed him to travel. So he's traveled all over the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. He has a lot to offer, a lot to hear. Please help me welcome this great individual as a speaker. Thank you, Mr. Ribot.
Okay, thank you for having me here. Let me take my mask off. It's hard to breathe. I'm really happy and excited to be here. I move a lot, so, I'm going to try to stay in one place. One of the reasons why I accepted this assignment was because I wanted to, first of all, come here and learn about other people's, other culture, other groups that are out there that are being kind of set aside or kind of marginated. And I felt that, okay, let me tell our story. But our story today is about the power of Latino leadership through culture, inclusion, and contribution. So, and when I was talking to Tina, she gave me this title. I said, that's perfect. But then I went back and I checked, and there's a book already about that already done. And I would like to, next slide, please. So the ideas and statements presented in this presentation are based on all the gains that Latino throughout this country and the 20 other countries around the world have experienced. How we advance the people, how we led, we can continue to lead all of our nations that are part of this Latino worldwide coalition. Now, becoming a Latino leader involves these 3 steps: integration into one's culture, history, and amazingly personal background. Those are some of the things that shape your character, and we're going to be talking about character. Next slide. So this is a book that I'm going to recommend. By the way, these slides that I have, I think we have the email of the people, right? So just we'll email them to you. Okay, I'll email all that. So that book, actually, look at the title: The Power of Latino Leadership, Culture, Inclusion, and Contribution. Her name is Juana Bordas. She's Dr. Bordas. And a lot of people seen this book and they recommended that book way back, but I just paid attention to it. So when I was looking to material for this presentation, that's where I went. Now, what about Latinos? There are over 61 million Latinos in the United States. This is the largest minority group, and the book talks about where that minority word came about. It's really interesting. The numbers grew 43% in the last decade, and it is estimated that by 2050, 1 in 3 of the US population will be Hispanic. So what does it take to lead all these countries, all these Hispanics, and the other countries, all the different, all the people that come from different countries? How do we do it? What can leaders of all cultures and ethnicities learn from how Latinos lead? So that's what we're going to cover in a nutshell today. And please bear in mind, this is from a Latino perspective, and it's very interesting. Next slide. Next. So the word, I'm going to come and talk about some definitions, okay? This is really important. Hispanic versus Latino. What do they refer to? Are they the same? What do you think? I see some people saying no. Well, let's talk about what's the difference, okay? Hispanic is the word Hispanic, which again, the book talks about how that word Hispanic came about. Really interesting. It's a word used to describe people from descending. It's descended from Spain. And it includes people from Spain, 19 countries, including the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. And these countries were part of the Spain Empire. Now, contrast the Latino, it refers to people who are derived from the Latin language, which includes Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese, and Romanian. I don't know if you heard of the Romance languages. That's part of that. In a narrow sense, people descending from Latin America in the entire Western Hemisphere of the United States, including Mexico, the Caribbean, and all countries in Central and South America. We're going to see some tables. Let's go next. Now, we're talking about Hispanic origin or race. Which one is it? Are Hispanics a race or ethnicity? Good. Another very common misconception to think is people of Hispanic origin are a race. We're not a race, but we're people of multiple races and ethnic origins. The most common, the majority of the race that we belong to is a race called mestizo. Mestizo is a mixture between the Spanish, the Hispanic conquistador, and the natives of the pre-Hispanic era. So those are the Indians, and they had sons and daughters, and they became called mestizo. But you don't see that. So that's the race. Let's look at the next slide, please. So these are the Spanish-speaking countries. Okay, as you can see, there's not just Mexico, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. There's not just, you see Nicaragua there, Panama, Paraguay, Venezuela. Immigrants are coming here in droves. I mean, a lot, because they're fleeing from political oppression. So we have them now down here, especially in this area. And of course, you got Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, which are from the Caribbean. So these are the regional. Now let's look at the next slide. Look at the race and ethnic group. For the most part, people from Argentina, Costa Rica, Spain, and Uruguay identify themselves as Caucasian. They are Caucasians. For the most part, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and I don't see Puerto Rico there, they are African and mulatto. Okay? Now look at the Amerindian, Native American. Bolivia, Guatemala, and Peru are Amerindian. Mestizo was Spanish European, Native America. You got the other one, Chile, Ecuador, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Paraguay. So when you look at someone who's Hispanic, do not confuse it with race. Because what happens is there's different race and ethnic groups within the Hispanic community. Next slide, please. So how do Latinos prepare to take on this task? I mean, you have to lead people who have some racial backgrounds. You got people from different cultures. Each one of these countries is autonomous nation. It's not like they belong to a consortium or something. And no, they're different countries. So they have their own monetary system. They have their own religion. Sometimes, mostly, it's Judeo-Christian. And also they have their own language and business ethics. So we have to actually look at how we're going to deal with that. How can we lead a group that is so diverse? So you see what it's diverse within diversity. Now, how do we do that? I mean, how do Hispanic leaders deal with this? Well, there's three ways. One is called personalismo, conciencia, conscience, and destiny. He says, so what's all about? Well, we're gonna be discussing this because that's what prepares the character and the fortitude of Hispanic leaders to take on this big task. And that's why it's so important. Now, I'm going to mention it later, but I keep on mentioning that if you want to really have inclusion and diversity in your group, you have to ask a Hispanic to lead. Because they know all about it. And they'll do it with very, very fine tools that they developed throughout the years. Now, personalismo, next slide, please. Personalismo is the character of the leader. In my presentation, we have quite a few, but I want to highlight two of them. Unconditional recognition of the essential value of each individual. So in Hispanic countries, when you lead, you don't really look at where they come from. They're from there. They have different colors and shades of the skin, but you recognize them for what they are because that's the familia. And later on, you'll find out that if you want to be Hispanic, all you have to do, embrace Hispanic. And in the Census Bureau, on the Census form, check it out. All you have to do to be categorized as Hispanic, just check the box that says Hispanic. That will really turn government around. It's going to get them crazy. So what do we do? And the other one is that personalismo reinforces the we, not the individual. It enforces the we, together, the family. If you embrace Hispanic culture, you become familia. You become part of that family. And that's really, really important. And then personalismo talks about character of the person. And it fosters something that's very inclusive because it's not a leader of one person. It's shared leadership process. We all in this together So we have to do what we need to do to get out or to move forward. Now, personalismo also has, next slide, please. So we talk about, so what's the essence of personalismo? We know it's a character of the leader, but how does it forms? How does it structure? How does it become part of the leader, Hispanic leader? Well, the leader has to be an authentic person, which can be depended on. The relationship in leadership with personalismo is that you become family. We look at the whole thing. So you came in late. So what happened? Let me listen to you. Let me listen to you. So what happened? And we try to take care of those issues so that they can be productive. And that's one trait of a Hispanic leader. Genuine feelings for people, listens to them, treats them with respect and courtesy, and is an hombre de palabra, man of his word. In the old days, we didn't have the contracts. So shake of the hand, and if you broke it, that's like stabbing someone. So it builds trust. And that's what leaders have to do. So that's how they prepare. And what happens is throughout the culture, mom, the mother, the dad, stress those values. And those some of the values of the culture. Next slide. Conciencia. Conciencia, conscious. Conscious is like a GPS. Right? It tells you whether you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong. Conciencia is a connection the leader has with his inner core. It provides him direction and guidance. Who am I? How can I lead? What do I need to do? How much more I have to do to be able to lead this group of people? Also, it rests on cultural identity, because if you don't know where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. So you have to have a grasp of who you are. Okay, so I'm a Latino, I'm Hispanic, I'm from Puerto Rico, okay? I'm brown, I'm not white, no, not yet. I'm brown, so what are some of the things that has happened throughout my culture? I know I'm probably gonna be treated a little bit different, but you know what? It's, like they say in the military, adapt, right? And then succeed, right? So that's what we do. Also, to cultivate conciencia, leaders must also uncover personality flaws. You have to understand, okay, so dang it, I can't deal with this group, for example, because they're too loud. Who was it that said a little bit loud? They're too loud, and I'm more kind of subdued. Well, they're not loud because they want to get you upset. That's who they are. So you have to accept them as familia, okay? Because other people will probably consider us Hispanics loud too. He's not here. He mentioned about the shoes. So conciencia is cultivating personal awareness. You have to know who you are. And leaders, Hispanic leaders do that all the time. They do that because they have to find out, how do I talk to these people? How do I talk to my familia? How do I talk to my brother-in-law who is not Hispanic? How do I talk to them? So you do that. You start thinking and you stop, because your culture tells you that these are some of the things that you need to do. Now you got destino. Let's go to the next one. Destino or destiny. This is the one that actually, when you talk about in church, you talk about your gift, the gifts. How do you do it? Okay, who am I? What do I do? How do I do this? Now, it implies that everyone was born with a distinct reason at a precise time history and has a unique path. This is a lot different from the Anglo-American belief that you have to do individual effort, self-determination. This is not how Latinos do. That's why sometimes you find that you might think that a Hispanic employee or co-worker is not working as hard. It's just that they're just not looking to stand out. We're not. Now, since collective leadership prescribes that every person has a role, you have to think, we have to think. We think, okay, so what's my role here? What am I supposed to be doing here? Am I supposed to just be talking about something or just actually give him information? And we're gonna ask some, if you got some questions, I'm more than glad to do it later on. Cultura. So the cultural foundations of leadership, and we're gonna cover a lot of them. I'm gonna cover 3 of them. The book mentions about TED. I'm gonna cover this one because that's what this is what this presentation is about. Cultural-based leadership, I was gonna say cultura. Latinos are bound together by one common thing, Spanish language. The Spanish language. A shared history, okay, the history of Hispanics throughout the ages. By the way, our history has been around longer than the creation of the United States of America. If you look at history, most of what is currently the United States of America right now used to be Hispanic. And it was stripped away by the white man because at that time it was believed that it was superior, so they had the right to claim whatever. The book also talks about that history. I encourage you guys to take a look at it because it opened up my eyes. It just got some beliefs out of my head and they said, oops, okay, so I was wrong. Now I'm a lot better. Those common values are the fabric that puts them together. And in there you can mention food, music, dancing, ways of saying things a different way. The common values that stem from both the Spanish and the roots, the Amerindian roots, is familia, simpático, demeanor, generosity, respect, honesty, hard work, and service to others. Now, since cultural-based leadership deals with culture, guess what? Culture is not inherited. It's not. Culture is not, you're not born with culture. Culture is learned. So that means that all of you here can learn about Hispanic culture and become a Latino at heart, de corazón. Wouldn't that be nice? Next slide. Also, these are the values, and this is what the values of the Hispanic culture, okay? La familia, a we orientation. We're not exclusively bonded by blood, okay? We're not. We're bonded by what we mentioned before, common values, spiritual tradition. There's a lot of spiritual tradition in Hispanic countries. You have 21 countries, 21, and each one of them has a variation of Catholicism. A lot of them have a different variants of Protestantism. But what happens is that you grow up with knowing this one God, that Jesus Christ is the Lord, and that just permeates everywhere you go. Until you get immersed in another culture and you become aculturizado. meaning you accept, you embrace another culture, just like you all can embrace the Hispanic culture. We sometimes embrace other cultures, other language, other customs. We don't eat hot dogs and hamburgers in a lot of the countries in South America. We're different. Not everybody Hispanic eats tortillas. Not everybody that's Hispanic likes hot sauce. So that culture is learned. So the other one is another value is simpático, being congenial. And being congenial means, being agreeable. You like to always please people. You like to, have you seen like Hispanic, something is wrong and you tell them, you genuinely tell them, this is something wrong? And they say, no problem, it's fine, no problem. We like to be agreeable. We like to be liked by a lot of people. Because if you like me, then I can like you and we become familia. Hispanic value, generosity and sharing. Mi casa es su casa. That's the first commandment of generosity. It's amazing. In Puerto Rico, somebody goes to the house, knocks in the house at first, even, come on in. Entra. And then all of a sudden you got mama with food. Yeah, I got some galletitas, some crackers. You want some coffee? That's why I ask coffee everywhere I go. Sorry. See, that holds our culture together. The spirit of family. It is not whether your skin color. It has nothing to do with it. It has to be with value, family values. And we value more the we than the I. By the way, in some of the dialects of the Native Amerindians, the I word, there was no I, meaning that there was no correlation, knowledge of being individual. Respeto, respect, show respect. We respect our elders. We respect people who we know that are, for example, teachers. Hispanic culture learns how to respect teachers, and they listen to what the teacher says. If the teacher says, this is the way we're going to do it, this is the way we're going to do it. Because those are the ones that actually educated our kids. Those are the ones that carry us. And I remember my mother, we used to, when I was 5 years old, like we used to go walk by the beach on my way to school. And she said, acuérdate de respetar tu maestra. Remember, you gotta respect your teacher, because I was kind of a little loud. So, and she would hear somebody, the teacher said, he did something, there you go. No ifs or buts. And she would tell her, go ahead. If female misbehaves, slap him. He said that. Now nowadays it's different. So being honest, you have to be honest. As a leader, you have to tell it like it is. You have to be able that people can trust you. You have to be trustworthy. Those are some of the traits inherent in the culture, in our culture, that make you a better leader, because you're going to be able to understand other people and not judge them by what the color of the skin, because that's not in our head at that time. Now, trabajar, contributing to work. Now, have you ever imagined or wondered why Hispanics take jobs that others don't really want? Or that other people think that they're beneath them and they don't want to do it? We value work. You know why we value work? Because it takes care of the we, it takes care of the family. I'll do whatever it needs to be done so that I can bring food to my family, to buy my kids clothes. I'll do whatever I have to do. It doesn't care, I don't care what type of work it is, what type of job it is. No matter how demeaning it is, we'll do it because we have to take care of the familia. And sometimes that familia is not necessarily the close family. You got the cousin and the cousin and the cousin and the cousin who's trying to loaf off you, but that's okay. We can handle that. Now, the other value is serving others, serving other people. We are a nation of servant. And these people that we're talking about are servant leaders. You heard that term before, right? They are servant leaders. That's why in our church, sometimes the church doesn't want to ask the Hispanics to bring food because he thinks it's putting a burden on them. Heck no. We gladly do it. Because that's our contribution. That's how we show love. That's how we show respect. That's how we show the value of other people. That's what we're always sharing stuff. If you go to a church, a Hispanic church, be ready. You got to bring, a to-go bag or something because you will have food. And we have our Encuentro Latino. By the way, this is my Pastor Ramirez from the Hispanic church. It's Compassion Christian Henderson. And we integrated the church. So now the church is actually bilingual. We have our our worship group, Hispanic, also does it on stage with subtitles in Spanish and English. That's inclusion. So we help, we love serving others. Now we're bound together by the Spanish language. And I'm gonna submit to you that if you really, your organization, group, or department, whatever it is, if you really want to say that you embrace diversity and you include people and you have a policy of inclusion, you have to embrace culture. And if you embrace culture and you do not embrace the Hispanic or Spanish language, you're really not including. You're not including us. You're not. If you have the same mentality, speak English, it ain't gonna work. You have to include the culture, and the biggest trait of the culture is the language. And if you don't do that, you really do not have truly inclusion and diversity policy. Now, let's move to the other one. De colores. Cesar Chavez, when he was doing that rally in the fields in 1950, when they were marching, I think Martin Luther King, they used to sing, "We shall overcome," right? Well, the Hispanics used to have de colores. De colores son los arcoíris que vemos lucir, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Meaning that we're all a lot of colors. And color, all colors, it includes, we understand with different shades of color, but we're familiar. And we don't look at those colors. Latinos, it's really interesting because when I sing that song, it just brings me back to occasions in which they did not wanted us. And now they do, because we kept them pushing and pushing and pushing and showing people that you have to, in order for you to integrate, you have to embrace the culture. Latinos are de colores. Next week. And the whole leadership process includes intergeneration, because we have different generations, okay? And we teach the younger generation, we instill them in the values and the culture so that they can become leaders as we are. Going back to inclusiveness and diversity, Latinos are the colores. There are many colors of humanity are right across the family table. And we have to do that. And I just sang the song, so you got it. No autograph for the singing, but Latino Destino is shaping the diverse and exclusive society. The Colores offers a pathway to accomplish this. So that when you realize that we have many colors but one big family of humans trying to survive, you understand that that's a gift. That's a gift that God has given us. And we have to embrace it. And that's the way that Hispanics do it. So the Hispanic leadership style, next slides, I think we're almost done. The Latino leadership style describes how Latinos will transform this country, and they're already doing it. So in 2050, if 1/3 of the population is going to be Hispanic, so that means that we got heads up, right? Because we already know. So now, we have gone through conquering, we've been conquered, colonized, and deemed minority. Can you imagine? Most of the land belonged to Hispanics, and now they kicked them out, and now they become minorities. Crazy, isn't it? But in spite of that, we survived, we transformed, and we have succeeded. These contributions are very important so that we all learn that leadership style through culture, inclusion, diversity, and actually understanding the contribution that Hispanics have made to this country. And we'll continue to do it for years to come. Thank you very much. Question? The book you can get it on Kindle. It's on Amazon, so if you're interested, it's really, really important that you guys get to take a look at it because it has a lot of things that I did not cover. Thank you.